Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Capitalist Investor. As always, you have myself, Diamond Hands D. We got Tony the Tiger and Cool Hand Luke, I'm sorry.
What up?
Oh, how's it going, guys?
Good. I had a nice steak last night. I'm happy.
Oh, yeah. I did as well. It was delicious.
I had tacos. Was it Tuesday?
Taco Tuesday?
Yeah, it was Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. The street tacos from Costco.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those
I'm
are
familiar.
money, man. That for like $15, like it'll feed a family of 2 to 3. Like
with that special sauce they have.
Oh, that
the crema.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's light. It's straight fire.
So Tony, the reason why I wear a suit, every day, like we talked about last week, is because I don't know what you're wearing right now. I don't know if it's camo. I don't know if it's like
It's throwing you off.
Like leopard print, like
not
what
leopard.
is it?
It's not leopard print.
It's camo.
It's like camo, dude. It's a golf shirt.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to get in the heads of my adversaries on the golf course, and obviously I'm in your head right now. So
You're always in my
winning.
head, Tony. Hashtag winning. Is that Charlie Sheen?
Speaking of that,
Yeah, it is.
congratulations to Wyndham Clark,
Which no one had.
who apparently is a good golfer. I looked at the sheet; he was plus 7,500, so 75 to 1, which was like
I mean, that's
right onto the
second or
sheet.
third tier of golfers you'd throw a dart at. But I mean, he won a couple weeks ago. Like, I mean, he's having a great season. So, hey, man, that course looked jacked up. Like, you didn't want to be in the sand because there was no way to get out of it. Like the fescue around the sand, the landing areas on the greens, it looked treacherous.
Yeah. Well, I don't. We should talk about the show first, but I have some thoughts on LA Country Club.
Gosh. All right.
Those
We'll save that for our canceled and puzzled
Yep.
section. Of the
Yeah, we're just
show.
gonna complain a lot at the end of the show. So we'll start with
You guys will.
we'll start with crypto.
I'm a hot dude. The topics I got for the puzzled / canceled, like I'm a hot tamale today. All right, let's go.
So we got crypto. We'll talk about that. It's making kind of a big comeback here over the last couple days. We'll talk about why. Charitable giving down for the 4th time in 40 years. Last year in 2022. So we'll take a look at that. We'll talk briefly about the OceanGate submersible that went down to try to look at the Titanic. That's a huge national story. And, we'll do a canceled segment, but, it's really just going to be Tony, complaining about a bunch of stuff he saw in the news this week.
On Twitter, probably.
Yeah, right.
Because there's some crazy stuff going on. Yeah. But with all that said, in that segment, I'll give my thoughts on LA Country Club as well. But yeah, crypto. Bitcoin had a huge surge. I think it settled out around 27,000 to 28,000.
So wait,
It's up to 29.
29. All right, so what? It kind of like went from 15 to 30, and from the beginning of the year till like a month ago, and then it settled back down to what? 25, 26?
25-ish, yep.
Okay, now we're ripping up to 30 again.
Back up to 30, close to it, yep.
Okay. All right, why?
Great question. I think a couple reasons.
All right.
You're hearing all on the news or Twitter for the fact that BlackRock and these big, companies out there, even the JP Morgans of the world, are coming together trying to create this like spot ETF out there on Bitcoin, and starting to get some more traction and news. And there's some positive light that it might actually be happening. I mean, when you get big money flock in, we've talked before about how it's bad sometimes. A lot of times it's bad when big money owns everything, gets involved in everything because they can influence, how things happen, like the Vanguards of the world, BlackRocks of the world. But that being said, when they get involved, things usually tend to happen.
So you saw that they're going to create a ETF?
Yeah, so
There's
usually
already ETFs for Bitcoin, though.
Gary Gensler, they also create an exchange, ETF.
So
and
now
exchange.
that's the angle I'm going with.
Yeah, so they were going to create an ETF and an exchange, another crypto exchange like Coinbase out there, which would create more demand or more acceptance of Bitcoin and more access to Bitcoin essentially out there for institutional investors and big money.
Right. Now this is the conspiracy theory that I see. And so you have Citadel, Fidelity, Charles Schwab to launch a new crypto exchange platform. EDX Markets is what it will be called. A week ago, the SEC sued Binance and Coinbase for having their own crypto exchanges. So now this is I mean, you're going to jump in the water. Like, is it warm right now for these big players to jump in? Obviously, because they're taking down the small players.
Well, I
mean, that's how I look at this. I'm like, they are going to bog down the OGs of the way you would buy crypto through either, I've always done it through Coinbase. I know Binance is another way, and that is what I know and I'm comfortable with. I haven't bought crypto in a while, but that's where I would go if I was going to buy it again. Now you're going to bring it even more mainstream with these Fidelity and Charles Schwab. Like, geez.
Yeah.
But was this big money beating down
Yes.
the little man?
This is where, like, I don't know if you saw the James O'Keefe recent, like, on BlackRock, how they always are buying politicians, buying things like this whole going after. I'm not saying this is happening, but like it's a possibility. We got to keep in mind like that these big institutions like BlackRock's, Vanguard's, JP Morgan's of the world are trying to influence, somehow the some regulatory bodies, the government, to take down some of the OGs like you were talking about, so they can get more involved and get more market share to make money off of. I mean, this is the game of big money.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think it is. I think that's the angle. And with the big players, I mean, at least it's going to be a little bit more accessible to people, but that'll just probably make it more volatile.
Yeah.
When the little guy gets started involved, like, it's just easier. It's just easier to buy crypto now if you've got Charles Schwab and Fidelity involved.
And the fact that big money is getting involved, I mean, that's also a sign that it might be here to stay longer. Right, like the big institutions of the world, which gets people. One of the biggest risks to Bitcoin and crypto is that they just they regulate the crap out of it.
But that's just where isn't that your angle? The regulation of it. It's not supposed to be regulated. It's supposed to be free.
But that's
commerce,
the problem.
Now,
and that's
now where are we going with it?
That's the scary part.
Yeah. So
because the whole point of decentralization is to get rid of these big money players. Yeah. So I mean, it's like if they're tracking. Who's buying it, who owns it, do you really own it? If you don't have it in your own wallet, your own hard drive, that gets in the whole big conversation. So, and the fact that people really don't understand crypto makes it easier for these institutions to control things and get involved in people's money.
Yeah, and I mean, so obviously I think the run-up in crypto has been the big players are coming to the table to create their own exchange. And then you also have, like, I think some of the AI stuff is kind of, it's toning down, fizzling out a little bit, so maybe profits are flowing into riskier assets again, such as crypto. I don't know. Could be those two items right now.
That's another point.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So you buying? Are we buying? Are we buying any crypto?
My
Bitcoin?
family owns amount of crypto, and that's what they'll own forever. Like, we might buy a little bit more, but like this is their allocation. A small percentage of their portfolio. My parents, myself owns a little bit, like just to the point where I know if it goes to zero, I'm not going to be unhappy, but if it goes to $1 million, I might be able to retire a little sooner.
Yep.
I'm going to say I'm not going to buy it, so therefore it will continue to run up to $40 a coin.
I see. I think I've told you guys, I bought it at $5,000. I rolled it up to 40. I sold it at 40. That's how I bought my house, put my down payment on my house. And then we bought back in at 18,000. So right now we're sitting pretty, looking happy, and I don't plan on buying any more anytime soon.
Yeah. All right. Why? Because inflation's eating into everything else.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll touch base on that
in my vacation.
Speaking of inflation, now we have U.S. charitable giving falls in 2022 for the fourth time in 40 years as economic headwinds weigh. So this headline just screams to me is that the wealthier people are feeling the pinch.
Yep, for sure.
That's what that headline says to me. I guess donations were down 3.5% last year in 2022, and adjusted for inflation, that is around 10%.
Yep.
Speaking of inflation, I go like it's starting to blow my mind, like these conversations of inflation's settling down. We're down at 3% or 4% or whatever we're at. Whoop-de-doo, because everything's up 15% over the last year, and it's not going down.
Yep.
So not many people have gotten 10 or 15% raises, so just everything's more expensive. I go to Costco, I didn't even buy any meat. I didn't buy any steaks. I didn't do anything. I bought like water.
You usually smoking meats every week.
I know. I'm just saying, it's like the cart was not full of meat this time. And my bill was
less food for the
my
for
bill
the
was
office.
$450. And I don't even know what I bought. I bought like peanuts and water and Gatorades and street tacos.
Those tacos are so good.
They are good.
Let's be real.
Aldi wasn't cheap for me last week. Like, listen, I spent $200 at Aldi's, and I then went home and unpacked everything. I'm like, wow, I don't think this is gonna last us maybe even a week. Like, I'm like, it's bad.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely hitting into, people's thought process on. It's interesting. People are charitably inclined and more than happy to give when times are good, but when times are tough, then it's more about me, right? Yeah. And that's fair. I mean, that's human nature.
Yeah.
Right?
In 2021, those gifting was over $500 billion for the first time ever. Guess what? The market was up that year. People are looking for charitable deductions to help lower their income and things like that when they have to realize gains. Guess what? 2022 was a down year. Why? Because the market was down. There was nothing. There's no one trying to get tax favorable tax deductions. Yep. So I don't know. It's not rocket science to me. But I just do feel that the inflation is starting to starting to creep into that higher middle class, higher net worth type of person.
Yep, absolutely. And
what's interesting is, 2023 will it pick back up because the markets are up higher, right? So like if the markets are up more and people are seeing their accounts go up a little bit more, are they more willing to pull out money, give again retirees, bigger money that owns assets, right? That's a conversation too. I mean, that's one of the things I actually kind of want to talk about today, but I know we kind of changed the topics a little bit. But what I wanted to kind of bring up was asset inflation. Like the stock prices going up is actually inflationary because it actually increases spending in the economy. So it kind of does the opposite of what the Federal Reserve is trying to do and hike rates and cool the demand. Assets going up actually makes it harder for the Fed to do that. So maybe 2023, people will be more charitably inclined because their assets have gone up.
Yeah, but I mean, if you were down 20% last year and your stock portfolio, you need 25% to get the even this year. We're not there yet. We're at 15?
Yeah.
So I don't know if people are going to be more charitably declined because they're not back to even yet.
Yeah.
That's how I would look at it. I
think it depends
so,
on
unless they just pushed a bunch of chips in on NVIDIA and it ripped 300%, or whatever it's done. So I mean, those are those angles. So, if you got lucky and you picked those 8 stocks that are carrying this entire index, then maybe you are going to be looking for tax deductions. Yeah, but most people aren't because they're balanced portfolios.
In 2022, probably most of those people for the first time in a long time also had, long-term capital losses, hadn't seen that for a long time. But it's the wealth effect too. When your accounts are up, you see more money in your accounts, you feel more wealthy, you're gonna spend more, you're gonna give more to charities,
Yep.
But with that, crushing inflation that we've seen for a while now, poor Tony can't get out of Costco for under $400.
It used to be $300. Now it's $400.
Yep.
It's like, that's real.
So I think
that
we should
is
start
real.
saying inflation's 30 or 25%.
Yes, it is.
It is.
It is.
Yep.
100%.
No doubt about it.
It's 100%. It's 25%.
That's funny.
Right. Titanic excursions.
This isn't funny. I said that.
No,
was
this
funny.
yeah.
This isn't funny.
No, but I mean, if you've seen some of the headlines, you have these excursions, that cost $250 million a person, or $250,000 a person to go in a submersible down to see the Titanic. It's and one of the subs is lost. Yeah. As of this morning, they hear some noises that could be coming from the sub, but it is 2.5 miles below the surface.
Whatever 12,500 feet is.
Yeah, I mean it's like 2.5 miles down. Yeah. And Luke, you brought up what was the record for the
so the
most
biggest the record for going the deepest to save somebody in a submersible is 1,250 feet. This is 12,500 feet. So this is 10 times farther down than the largest in history rescue ever in a submersible. So I mean, it's not looking good. I think they have 24 hours or 48 hours left of air first of all. So if it hasn't already, if they actually are still down there and that they haven't actually, it hasn't collapsed, then they only have 24, 48 hours to get down there. And Derek, I think your point earlier was about how long there's two things out there that possibly can get down there.
Yep. And they're military vehicles, but they would take weeks to get there and deploy. They're not anywhere close to that site. I mean, the Titanic's in essentially the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Off of I think like Greenland, Newfoundland, somewhere there.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and if you ever see the like the graphics, kind of like they put like the Empire State Building like stacked on top of each other. Yeah, they're at the bottom of the ocean. So. It's not looking good for their rescue.
Yeah, but the points I wanted to make was this is bringing out some of the worst in humanity from what I've been reading on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's two things going on. One, everyone's judging like them for even getting in the first place, which I get sometimes. Like, you look at it.
That's one of my questions. Would you guys? If it was free, would you go?
Probably not.
Free.
Probably not. But I'm not going to judge somebody. Maybe they had a fascination with Titanic and they wanted to go down there.
I did. I learned all
maybe
about
they didn't
it.
do enough research, which everyone's a culprit of. A lot of people in this world, including me, we just do things. When things sound good, we're going to do it. Like, we don't do a lot of research beforehand. We just accept that the fact that it's safe and it's good. Whatever we're doing is good. I mean, the roller coaster at the amusement park, whatever it be, we just kind of accept that it's safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the fact they didn't do any research doesn't blow my mind. The other fact that people that are really making fun of them really is that they're like billionaires. Like, oh yeah, they're billionaires, and they deserve to be, since they're so stupid they didn't do any research, they deserve. Like, everyone's bringing up the fact they have money. Like, that's what's wrong with today's world, is automatically, since you have money, someone hates you. Mm-hmm. And they could do the first time you make a mistake or you do something that they think is stupid, that they're going to come after you just and bring up the fact that you have money, right? So that's the one of the issues I've been seeing, and it's really frustrating me about society.
I can't argue with that. I mean, first thing they tell you, like, hey, it's $250,000 a ticket. Like, it's just like what Virgin Galactic taking you into the ozone or whatever for $200.
Lower atmosphere.
Thanks.
You don't even get all the way to space.
Right. You lose gravity for 10 seconds and come back down. Yeah.
I'd rather go in the air I'd rather go to space for $250,000 than go in the ocean.
I don't know. I wouldn't go. Like, if you said, like, hey, free ride on this submersible, like, it takes 8 hours to get down there. Like, and that's not a way I want to go out, is like a collapsing sub or a disabled sub, or I mean, it can't even blow any ballast tanks to get up. Like, there must be something extremely wrong with whatever equipment.
It must
they
have just lost
there.
all power.
Something.
And there's no backup system. That would be the thing that would concern me. Obviously, it's not tethered to the top in any way. It's just a free maneuver.
Yeah, there's no cord or anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I mean, they also say down there it's like minus 30 degrees. The only reason it's not frozen is because all the salt.
Right.
So how long is it going to take for everything in that sub to be frozen? Yeah, literally. Like, that's scary too. Mm-hmm. So. Well, we wish them. We wish a miracle happens. So we'll see what happens. So
it will take a miracle.
It will. All right. Canceled and puzzled. Is anything puzzle? Like, I got a couple things puzzling me lately. Like,
well, you go, Tony. You're just like, you're itching to get it out.
All right. So the biggest headline is Hunter Biden got what appeared to be on a slap on the wrist for tax evasion and a federal gun offense for filling out an application falsely while he was under drug addiction. Like, good God. Like, that sounds like a federal offense, don't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. According to law, yeah, it is.
Okay.
Considering, I think a New England Patriots football player was just arrested at Logan Airport for having 2 loaded guns in his bag. He seems to obviously have just forgotten about those guns. I don't think, he intended to bring those loaded guns to the airport, but he's facing a minimum sentence of 2.5 years in prison.
Really?
Yeah. Just for bringing those guns to the airport. Obviously, not something you should do. But yeah, slap on the wrist seems to cover it pretty well with Hunter Biden and the laundry list of. Just photos on the internet if you just start there.
Right.
But yeah, I don't understand how that, specifically the gun offense, you get a slap on the wrist for that.
So here's my take is like, I believe in America, and I believe in our, Second Amendment, First Amendment, Second Amendment rights, what our Constitution says. And I think almost everyone should be able to buy a gun if they want to, whether they're under the influence of anything, right? Because if you want a gun and you're a crack addict and you don't want to go legally buy it, you're going to go buy a gun anyway if you want one, right? I'm just saying, like, I think the fact that we have these laws, especially like, for example, marijuana becoming more legal across the U.S. We have an issue. You can't legally own a gun if you smoke marijuana anywhere in the U.S. So as that becomes more legal, what's going to happen with that law? Like, because you can drink alcohol and own a gun, right?
You can own a gun. You better not be operating a gun,
right? Exactly. You can't operate a gun when you are under the influence of alcohol. But if you drink alcohol, even if you drink. I think the law says if you're addicted to alcohol, you can't. But who's going to say they're addicted to alcohol?
Right? I bought a gun a few years ago, but I'm not sure if I won't remember, but like I think you can buy a gun, but you need to go through background check.
Yeah,
like that is a must. Like that has to be something that needs to happen, and I'm sure it is, but like it needs to be more strict. I mean, you can't get a kid behind a car for a year until they pass all of these tests. Like guns are just as dangerous as a car.
For sure.
Right? And the other thing is that, I went and got my CCW. I learned how to use the gun.
I have one too. Yep.
And so there's so many things that you can and should be doing to have. Everyone should have access to a gun. It's part of the Constitution.
Yep.
Free speech and bearing guns, right?
Yep.
Along with a bunch of other stuff, right?
If everyone had a gun, there'd be a lot less crimes. Is all I'm saying. If everyone knew how to operate a gun and believed in guns, there'd be a lot less crime.
That's the thing. I mean, I don't think a lot of people believe in guns.
No.
And
like,
but
if
you don't want to run into the person that doesn't care about.
If you're in like a group setting of people, like everyone has a gun on them, you're not gonna fire a gun on somebody because you're gonna get killed right away.
Yeah, now we're getting into a South Park episode.
Well, my brother came up this weekend from Georgia, and he goes, but they're about an hour south of Atlanta, and he goes, it's like a military compound down there of civilians. Like everyone has guns. Everyone has the big guns, the ARs and things like that. And they have enough ammo. I mean, they can hold down fort for a long time in these pockets down south. You know, it's like it's a big thing. And I don't think there's as much crime as the big city because they're self-policing.
Yeah.
So,
but tax evasion, I mean, that's a big one too that we haven't really even talked about.
Yeah, and I found
I don't know why he just didn't pay his back taxes. Like because a lot of people have missed their tax payments before. I'm not a lot, but like people, it's not uncommon for people. Hey, you owe an extra $20,000 in your taxes, and you get penalties and interest. Pay it. Like,
was it officially called tax evasion?
I don't know that.
I don't think they did. They're like, hey, just make sure you go file. I don't know. Like I was trying to read up on the.
Listen,
the
I don't
official,
know much.
I was trying to find out the official, like, definition of tax evasion, and it's like you didn't file your taxes.
From what I've heard, it sounds like Hunter's got a lot of bad things happening, a lot of gray area from what it sounds like, from what I've read, from what I've seen. But like at the end of the day, you have to admit this is politically motivated in some sort of way. That how much attention it's getting and how Republicans now are running with it too. Like you got to admit that it's both sides that go after each other with anything, to make each other look bad. So that since it's Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, it's both sides going after each other and trying to tear each other down. This is the problem with politics in general.
Yeah. And the other thing, it just boggles. Like, there's this big uproar. Like, be careful of China. They're after us, and they're trying to take over the world, and all these things about China and how bad they are. Right? Why is Bill Gates over there hanging out with Xi? Why is Elon Musk over there hanging out with Xi? Because they have a lot of people. They spend a lot of money, and money is motivating a lot of things, right? I mean, look at China has a lot of access to the mineral rights that help EVs. No wonder Elon Musk is over there building battery factories.
Because if we decouple from China, all these businesses are going to hurt.
Yeah, we're trying to push EVs, and we don't even really have the minerals to build them. We got to import them from everywhere else. Wait till they don't want to do that, and we're stuck with the civilization of EVs that don't start anymore. Now we don't have any transportation because we got rid of our fossil fueled cars. When we have a ton of fossil fuel in the ground in the United States.
I mean, that's
we're heading in a great direction. Is what I'm scratching my head.
Whether we decouple or not from China, this is a sticky situation. Like, if we don't decouple from China and get away from them, then we have to rely on them more and more and more until they're number one power, and we're still relying on them. We're going to be number two the rest of our life, if not lower. Or if we do decouple, then these companies, inflation's going to be an issue. They could go into these companies, tax the crap out of these companies over in China, make their life a living hell. So that's why these business owners, but essentially what the politicians are trying to do, is kind of the opposite what these business owners want, especially the Bill Gates of the world and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I mean, they're taking care of their business here in the United States with some of the biggest countries, and one of my clients sent me like an article on like India. Yeah. And I, like they're at what I would refer to as an at-large ally. Mm-hmm. They haven't really picked the person they want to align with, other than they are getting in fights with China because they share a border, like a 2,000 mile border, and so like they don't appreciate that, and now they want India wants our weapons. Yeah. So now we have an ally because they're trying to defend themselves, just like Ukraine. And speaking of Ukraine, there was a small accounting error at the Pentagon. Imagine that. And we're sending another $6 billion to Ukraine. Like, good God, what is going on?
Counting error, quotation marks.
What is going on, man? Like, this is blowing my mind.
The government's so efficient at everything, aren't they? They're so good at keeping track.
They want to make sure you keep track of your $600 Venmo in inputs and outputs. Hey, where'd that $600 come from?
Yep, but they made a what is it, like $5.2 billion error? Is that what it was?
6.2.
6.2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they either must be just blatantly incompetent or just lying to our faces. Those are really the only two options that you can, or only two conclusions you can draw from that.
Yeah,
no one can do that, right? In any walk of life,
because all the good accountants are making a lot of money in the private sector.
Yeah, didn't they just hire another 87,000 IRS agents?
No, they didn't. They can't find anyone to work anywhere. No, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. I don't think they even. I don't even know if that bill actually passed.
But see, this is why capitalism works so well, because the good talent will go make as much money as they can somewhere else, and then. I'm not saying that you don't have talent if you don't work for the public sector. If you work for the public sector, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that you absolutely can have some disparities because of supply and demand. Like if you know you're good at what you do, you might not want to work in the public sector ever. So that might limit how many people can absolutely go over to the public sector and actually do a good job. Mm-hmm. Or you have to ask the question, is that the reason, or they just don't care?
Yeah, and as I was looking up this Pentagon thing, like I found, because as I was reading this article on Twitter of all places, they're like, hey, wait till it surfaces about the $21 trillion over the last 20 years that the Pentagon has no accounting for. And I'm like, what? So I guess somebody making some numbers up, but it did make me go down a rabbit hole of the U.S. budget for the military is $850 billion last year. Mm-hmm. China's was $230 billion. Yet we're still scared of their military when we're 4x their spending. Like, I'm scratching my head. And again, I just so where's the money going? We should have 4 times as much. Yeah, I mean, but we should have 4 times as much stuff: tanks, ships, planes, people. Like, I don't know. Those are. I'm sorry. I'm just so puzzled. I don't know what's going on.
That's the crazy part. This world's changed so much. Like, it's not. I don't think it's about tanks, planes. Like, it's more about the cybersecurity. It's about technology, AI. Mm-hmm. It's about. Nukes, absolutely, because the game's changed from a war standpoint.
Yeah, it's not a war machine. The war machines are more electronic.
It's about becoming and this is where like things get pretty crazy. Like when you talk about the globalist perspectives and like we're so connected in the everyday world, but we have different cultures. Like it's crazy, like the path we're heading down and what could possibly happen in the next 100, 200 years between currencies, between countries, being divided or coming together. Like things could get pretty crazy pretty quickly. That's why we have to pay attention to this. We have to talk about it, and we can't just be weak. Like that's a problem. America seems so weak right now. Like, this is why you have to have somebody in power
that has power.
That
has that dominant personality.
Yes.
You know, and I don't know. Trump's been doing his talking. He's like, I think I was a little. What did he say on the weekend? MSN. He said I think he actually said I was a little too. I'm not going to be as obnoxious as I was the last time I ran against Biden. Good luck.
Yeah, that'll last about 5 minutes.
Right.
All right. Well, let's close it down. What did you think of the U.S. Open? So the venue, LA Country Club, we talked briefly last week. You know, it's basically smack dab in the middle of $1 million homes. The Spelling Mansion's right off of there. It's $150 million. You can buy it. It's for sale, actually. The Playboy Mansion is off of 14. But yeah, so essentially what I wanted to say was,
and they declined Hugh a membership.
Yes, they did. There's all kinds of rules. There's a 1,000-page rule book. If you want to join, you obviously have to be invited. $250,000 initiation fee. No cell phones, no celebrities, no posts. All this stuff, right? So they get the U.S. Open, and there was 14,000 corporate seats sold, so like the suites and things like that. There was 9,000 general admission, so the people walking the grounds, which is the whole crowd for the biggest tournament of the year. It's the U.S. Open. It's the most prestigious. It's the hardest to win. Best golfers on the hardest golf course. Only 9,000 seats available. The members at LA Country Club bought 4,500. So they bought half of the tickets for the general admission, so not as many people would come. I still am not over that one. But I don't understand how that is just...
They wanted to keep it that exclusive still?
Yes.
Like they
didn't want people showing up to their country club, essentially.
Right. Stomping down
the
on
commoners.
Yeah.
Like what a bunch of garbage that was.
I mean, how many people show up at the Masters, do you know? Like, isn't it like
it's 40, it's thousands.
40,000 of the day or something ridiculous?
And it's hard to get tickets, don't get me wrong, but
guys, you want to go next year?
The course is packed with people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did say like the way the course is set up is very difficult to. It's not a spectators venue. It's kind of like Whistling Straits. It's like on the goat hills. It's on a hillside, right?
Yep.
It's hard to just walk around and stand off on the side.
I just can't comprehend. I'm sorry. I just can't comprehend spending $40,000 to go watch golf.
Who spent 40,000?
Did you say 40? Did you say Masters cost $40,000?
I said 40,000 people attend.
Oh, I think it's $40,000 a day to go, to watch and stay like a hotel, whatever, be there.
That we're talking Super Bowl tickets.
Okay, I was going to say that sounds like a big waste.
No, but I mean, you might
golf.
spend maybe $1,000 or $1,500 for a Masters ticket.
Well,
yeah, if the three of us wanted to go to the Masters.
We'd probably have to spend
there's
10
only
grand.
There's only a certain group. Yeah. There's only a certain group. If it was that expensive, what I thought, there's only a certain group that could afford that.
Right,
and it's
no, it's not. No, I don't know, man.
So with all the stuff going on in golf, and the money and the Saudis and all that stuff, something they can easily control. They just messed it all up and didn't let people come in to see the U.S. Open. It was very disappointing. And I think the overall vibe of the event was very off. You had lots of players, coming out and saying that the vibe was off. There weren't a lot of people there. The course wasn't great. The 45-year-old record for lowest round was broken by two people in the first day. Kenny Venturi, which was considered one of the greatest rounds of golf ever. To be broken.
Well, the crazy thing is they broke it on the first day, and it never got above that. So they dialed up the course super hard days 2, 3, 4, right? Because Ricky and Schauffele, Schauffele got in at like minus 8 or something like
minus
that.
-8. Yep. It was a
62.
62.
Yep. So I don't know. It but they didn't. No one did better than that. You know, like they couldn't get over the, you know, I thought it was like after the first day, I'm like, Jesus, they're going to come in 20 under.
Right.
So they didn't.
Well, someone heard us, or my phone heard us talk about tacos earlier. I just got a notification for Taco Bell. So
make a run for the border after this. All right, well,
guys.
Good stuff. Thanks for listening this week. If you have any questions or show ideas, hit us up at info@swpconnect.com, and we'll talk to you guys next week.